Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I'm Fattah Abdurozaq. I'm going to deliver you my speech of today's motion. This house would organize individuals and organizations who do not recycle, and we are with this house. And we choose to speak to the motion. Let's go into the definition and outline. Nowadays, our world has been getting worse and worse through generations. One of its biggest reasons is a massive garbage pollution which has polluted the world so terribly. Our house would agree with this motion because this would force people or organizations to stop polluting our environment by recycling the garbages. The garbages which we mean here is only the non-organic garbages, because this can't be decomposed by itself, while the organic ones can. So this would harm environment. What is recycling? Recycling is the process of converting waste materials into new materials and objects. The recovery of energy from waste materials is often included in this concept. The recyclability of a material depends on its ability to acquire the properties and it had its original state. Having seen this statement, we could see how important recycle is for keeping our environment healthy and safe always. As we know, we all have the 3M concept in keeping environment: reuse, reduce, and recycling. If people can still apply reuse and reducing the garbages, they can still do this first. If it's not possible anymore, then they have to recycle the garbages. So, can you imagine if the non-organic garbages are not recycled? How bad, how terrible our world will be someday. Our children, grandchildren, and so would suffer. And the mechanism, how we do it's gonna be explained in our mechanism. Here I will deliver you. The mechanism consists of pre-run and post-stage to solve this problem. The first stage or pre-stage would be the making of planning first, done by environment and organizations, government, and the ministry to make sure the mechanism will run well and organized, like any corporations with recycling companies and factories, and making policies and consider the law punishments. Simple things we would do is we would strongly forbid people to littering in public place and go on to housing environment. The running stage of our mechanism will be, firstly, we have to announce our new regulations and policy to the public. We want to give educations throughout the country. Then, as we have gained corporations and appointment with recycling corporations, then our policies would work. We also want to build more recycling factories and places, starts from the little ones around villages and the bigger ones for the city's people. We would also try to apply our law punishment by finding those who break our policies and like throwing garbages around. For them who don't want to recycle garbage with the amount of 50,000 rupiahs up to 10 million rupiahs or even more. It depends on how badly they break the rules. And if those don't want to pay for the fines, or they even break heavier violations, we would punish them from minimum 1 month confinement or more. Again, it depends on their violation. Then we would ask all of the household and organizations' office to recycle smaller garbages on their own, while the bigger ones consent it to factories, and the organic garbages would be thrown as usual. That would be the duties of garbages collectors. The last or post stage, we would keep watching on the regulations that have been applied. If there are some mistakes, we certainly would fix and evaluate it as well as possible. And we want to keep applying such regulations through generations in order to save our future world and future generations. We also will obligate schools to give environment educations and make the healthy environment at least once in a month, so that the young generations could get used to it. And we would order all of the organizations, such offices, schools, and others, to apply strict rules in throwing and recycling garbages to its member, workers, and students. There would be balance in all sectors. Now, let's move on to the points of arguments. I'll give you several points of arguments. The first one is, now the number of garbages have been getting out of hands. The world has been terribly polluted by garbages. Many people often ignore the policies given by government. Many public or nature places have been polluted because of humans' behavior. We all know that the organic garbages could harm and pollute the environment badly. It has a very long-term impact. It just doesn't impact our present situation, but our futures too. Our children, our grandchildren would certainly suffer because there would be many natural environment damage. There would be an extreme climate change and other. This, of course, threatens the future of our own kids, humans. If it's not stopped, we're just heading to our own kids' extinction. Imagine, garbages can pollute water, air and soil. If it pollutes water, for instance, this would be dangerous for humans because water will be recycled into rains. If it contains bad pollution, this would harm humans. If it pollutes soil, this would make plants dead and climate changing. This would be new sector for economic growth. That's the second argument. The point and the building of the recycling companies would provide employment for people. So the unemployment number could help to be decreased because now we have new sector of economy and the factories could produce their own products, even the brand new concept products. As we can see an economic potential which is good for government's income, and this would help the economic sector to grow better. According to REI, the U.S. recycling industry employed 1.25 million people, whereas the U.S. solid waste management industry used only 0.25 million people. The REI study says that there are more than 56,000 reuse and recycling establishments in the U.S. REI also states that on average, the recycling industry pays higher average wages than the solid waste management industry. The third argument, it requires new resources to produce the materials. As we can see, the making of plastic, iron, and other non-organic garbages requires big amount of resources to produce it. Let me get it clear. The non-organic materials, if they don't recycle, besides they would harm environment so badly, it would be a wasteful movement if such garbages are not recycled. Imagine this. This factory would only need the garbages to produce product with the same materials without taking from the new resources, because as we know, we also have to save our natural resources so that it could last for a long time without being wasted by producing products by new materials. According to NAM's government, it says that it takes 35% less energy to recycle aluminum than it does to make it from raw materials. The last one argument is the people, especially the youngsters, would get used to keeping our environment safe by reducing, reusing, and recycling garbages. This is a very positive thing because the change needs process, and this is the process. If people and youngsters will get used to take care of environment and they are warned by law regulations, they would do it easily with less difficulties, and they would teach this method to future generations. So this is a good movement. So I think, and this will not stop for good. Conclusions. Let me sum it all. That non-organic garbages are very dangerous for our present, especially for our future generations, because it has a long-term effect that threatens humans' fate. By applying this law, people will be more careful in doing things. Also, it will get them to get used to taking care of environment by recycling. This would also raise and increase creativity furthermore. This would also provide many more employments for people, and it can be a new sector for economic growth because they can produce things free, and this would earn big income. Lastly, this would save our natural resources, so we don't need to produce things with the new materials from the natural resources. I think that's all from me. Thank you.